Hi, this is Katie, and welcome to our next learning module where we are going to get our server set up. So in learning module 3 is very likely, and I hope that you have already downloaded either the ISO or you're using the CD in the back of the textbook. Now from the last video, there was some confusion, and I think I have it figured out, but what we need to do is in the Before You Begin folder in Learning Module 3, so this you probably already did, hopefully, but you need to download VM Player because I want you to install server, and what we need for this course is VM Player. I don't want you to install it on an actual system, and I don't think a lot of people have 3 or 4 computers laying around and multiple licenses of Windows Server because they're quite costly to install. So we're going to use VM Player, which uses our resources on our computer. That's explained here in these videos. And the links are in the previous learning module, and also in the textbook and software information. So you have the links to VM Player. Also, in the textbook, what I'm going to do when I start this is I'm going to show you how to install it from the textbook CD and also from an ISO. An ISO can be downloaded from DreamSpark. You should have access to it at this point. You should have probably downloaded the ISO already. The video here tells you how to download it, and it takes, my video is only 12 minutes, but the download, depending on your internet connection, takes a little bit of time. So I've done that already. You have too. This Before You Begin quiz, take it now if you haven't already. Even if it's late, take it. It's worth 10 points, and it says, do you have these things downloaded? Select, or do you have the server installed and downloaded, or at least downloaded? Select yes, and you may already, or select true. Submit that so we can move on. In Learning Module 4, I'll post the video in a second or in a few minutes when I'm done, and I'll explain to you what you need to do. But in this module, this is where you're going to watch the video that will tell you how to set up and configure 410Server1. And this goes to the Before You Begin activities before Chapter 1. I know we're in a couple weeks into class, and some of you probably or may have already installed it, and that's good. You can change the configuration. Just keep watching this video, because what you probably did not do was configure your DNS, configure your IP, your default gateway, and your DHCP for your local system. So we're going to do that too here. And also change our server name and our local gateway. So excuse me. I already installed VM Player and I use it. I've gone through a few of these installations just trying to make this video more smooth and deleted them. So you can always right click and delete. So I'm going to I'm using VM Player, and I am on my personal laptop that I use primarily just for work and pictures of my kids, but I'm going to create a new virtual machine. And here's the thing. If you're using an ISO that you downloaded from DreamSpark, use this option. If you are using the CD in the back of the book, use this option. This option here, I will install the OS later, you'll select your Windows. It'll say Windows 2012 server 2012, and then it'll boot from the disk, and then you start the installation. If you're using the CD in the back of the book, it's a 180-day trial version, so it'll get you through the semester. However, on DreamSpark, you'll get a key that you can use and an ISO that you can install. So it will be here, and you can use it in your future as you're studying for exams, and so on. And so on. Again, I add that to my end of my sentence for no reason. Plus, we are here at nearly midnight. I've been working all day, and I'm really pumped up to get this class going. So I hope you enjoy this video. So I'm going to use an ISO because I have a laptop that does not have a CD-ROM on it. And here is my ISO image that I downloaded, and it's quite large. I have enough space, though there's so much space now. But I'm going to point to where my ISO is, and I'm going to select that. Again, if you're using the CD, select this option. The next steps are pretty much the same. So there we go. I'm going to put in my product key. My product key I have from, I don't think it'll allow us, don't use mine, use your own. And the product key I got from DreamSpark. So when you log into DreamSpark, I'll go ahead and log into mine and show you what you would do. So you've already downloaded the ISO. If you didn't record your key, you can go back. So I'm going to go back to DreamSpark. Now ignore all my personal information I'm going to show you. Well, it's just my DreamSpark account, and my DreamSpark account is just like yours because I'm signing in as a student as well. So I've done the same things, and in my previous videos I showed you that. I'm going to use, they're in the process of changing, so I'm using my Microsoft account, which again we already had to create. I already logged in, so I'm already connected. But here I am. If you go to my apps or my account, I'm kind of hesitant to show that on the screen, but if you go to, well, no, I don't care. If you go here, it will tell you your key that you already were assigned. So there you go. That's where you're going to get your key back. Okay. Now, personalized Windows. This is for a user. Now, by default, Windows Server has a guest account and it has an administrator account. What we're going to do and what we need to do here is log into administrator to do our configurations for our server. So I'll show you how to do that if you haven't figured it out already, and we'll set our password. So here I'm going to do my data center. Now, because this is our primary server, and at the beginning, before you begin activities, it shows, this is where our users are going to be and our groups and policies, and it shows we have, we're using virtualization, but we can't use Hyper-V on VM Player, and we're going to figure out a workaround about that, but we're going to have Server 1 and Server 2, and then deal with just those two servers. Now, I don't think we're going to install Windows 8 and connect a client to it. I just don't think we'll have enough resources to do that with our virtualization and not costing you any more money. And then I also don't think we're going to install Server Core, but we will get to that as the chapters go on. What I want to point out is page 8, Roman numeral 18, so XVIII. I'm going back many years, but I'm pretty sure that's 18. And if you're a football fan, you probably know Roman numerals better than I do. I think. So, you need to keep an eye on these pages because it tells you what your IP addresses should be, and for Server 1, Server 2, a Server Core, and Windows 8. Again, for sure, we're going to do Server 1 and Server 2 in Chapter 1 and 2, and then the Core and Windows 8. I'm not sure if we'll be able to configure that or not. I don't want to cost you guys any more money and any more resources, so I'm going to start with Server 1. This Server 1 says do standard or data center. I'm going to do data center because in Server 2 I'm going to do standard, and we can see the difference, which is a lot, but you won't as a user see much. As an administrator you will. The personalized window, this is, I had just mentioned, we have an administrator account. That's by default, and we need that because that controls everything. There's a guest account, which we'll access at some point, and then this, what we're creating right here, is your first user. So this is you, and I'm going to be the first user on my system, and I'm going to put in my name, and I am going to, actually, I'm not going to put a space in there because it has a space, but I didn't know that. And I'm going to put in a password for my user. And as a note to myself, I'm writing down my user password because you are the administrator on the server. Oh, I guess as an administrator you could change it, but as a user you should know what your password is. Don't forget your password. Okay, my virtual machine name I'm going to call 410Server1. I'm going to save my default location. If you're in the classroom doing this, leave the default. It's on your hard drive. So when you come into your next class, you start VMware, or VMware player, I would suggest you put your last name on it too, like 410Server1 Smith or whatever your last name is. Actually, I would suggest you do that so that you know, and make a note of what computer you're on so that when you come in next week, you use the same computer. I'm on my laptop. Nobody else uses it. I'm calling mine 410Server1. If you're in the classroom, other classes use VM Player. Don't mess with their servers or they'll mess with yours. Got it? Cool. Okay, I hit next. I'm going to store it on a single file. By the way, if you're doing this from the CD, same processes at this point. I'm going to leave the recommended maximum size. Although I've seen some people installing it with 20, I'm going to leave mine at 60 and not encounter any problems. And then finish. Okay, video's still going. I'm good. These are my devices that I currently have connected, and I want them to be connected to my virtual machine so I can still use my mouse and I can still use my headset. So I'm going to hit OK. Here, I'm not going to install these tools. I'm going to say remind me later, and when I have time later, I will do that. So I'm going to click in my virtual machine, and it's installing. Control-Alt gets you out of your virtual machine. Clicking in will get you in your virtual machine. I'm going to open up my window and let it install. I'm just going to wait because there are a couple options before it gets to the main installation. Kind of what I'm following is this is some of the issues with the textbook, which I have emailed the publisher and asked for an errata, E-R-R-A-T-A. And what that is a clarification to problems of a printed book. And the problems I see in the beginning of these chapters is it doesn't tell you how to install Server 1. It tells you how to install Server, and it tells you how to install Server 2, but not Server 1 on a VM player. Some of our issues that we've had at the beginning, but we're moving on. So what I'm doing right now is it's installing and I'm still talking, I'm looking at page 48. So I know I'm jumping into chapter 2, but again, I think chapter 1 and 2 really kind of need to go together because this tells you how to do a clean install. The only problem is it doesn't tell you how to do it with, I hope I picked GUI version. I think I did. It doesn't tell you how to do it with VM Player, but we've overcome that. So on page 49, for example, it tells you the type of OSs. We want to do a GUI install for data center for my server 1. One of the things I noticed with the install from the ISO is on page 50, for example, it doesn't give me this allocated space. It jumps right into the Windows setup. I'm going to let it go. And it's at 41%, now 42. I'm going to pause my machine and pick up when it goes on to the next screen. So I'll let you know. It'll be, in my past with my computer, it took about 3 minutes to finish it from this point. So hang in there for a minute or 3. I'll pause. Okay. That took about 3 minutes, and my system rebooted. Let me make sure. Sorry, I'm paranoid that I'm recording. Oh, I guess if I have the mic in front of me. It took about 3 minutes, and it rebooted, and I'm coming back. It automatically did it. I didn't touch anything. Sorry. My headset on, right? Easy install. I'm going to close this window, but it's just rebooting. And what it's going to do is launch server as my user account. And my user account, Katie, that I created. And you created yours with your name. What we want to do before we set any of our settings for server 1 is we want to log out and log in as our administrator. Now, this shouldn't take long, so I'm going to let it run for a second while you're doing the same, hopefully. Oh, let's see. It is midnight. I'm full of energy though, so you might be watching some videos I make in a couple more hours. I'm gonna be tired tomorrow. All right, here's my first boot of server. It automatically launches Server Manager, and what it also did was logged me in as Katie. It logged you in as your user account that you have set up. So what we want to do is not do that, because we need to log in as administrator to set our IP and set up our network. So once this goes, I'm going to close my window. I'm going to close my configuration because I'm logged in as Katie and I can't do anything that way. I don't want to pull up the full screen, but you can. But I want to have access to my Camtasia or my recorder as well. So I'm going to scroll up and down. But here is the server window. And again, I'm logged in as a user with some special privileges. I hope you can hear me. I really hope you can hear me, because I'll be sad if you can't, and then I have to make it all over and figure it out. Okay, don't, I just set up the speaker. Okay, I'm going to, so this is like it's like Windows 8 if you've used it before. Here's our server manager, which I just closed. But I'm going to right click on my Windows icon and do sign out. I want to sign out as Katie and log in as an administrator. So it pops up to the screen. I'm going to click in my virtual system because right now I'm out of it. But I'm going to click in here and do Control-Alt-Delete. That's how you log in as administrator. But when you do that, it pops you out of VM Player, so you got to click back in the screen. So let's do that. Control-Delete, and then I hit Escape, and then I'm going to click Administrator. I've never logged in as an administrator before. It didn't give me that option to set up that account at the beginning. Like on page 51, where it says to set up the administrator password. It doesn't do that when I'm using the ISO. I'm not sure with the CD. I'm going to hit OK here, and I'm going to set up my administrator password. Now, in the textbook, it tells you to use capital PASSWORD01. And you know what? I'm going to do that on my system, because if you forget your password, you're going to be in big trouble. Not big trouble with me. You're going to be very, very sad, because you'll have to redo your administrator. You'll have to rebuild everything. So I'm using the default password, and you have to use a capital and some numbers, and it has to be a certain amount of characters long. So capital PASSWORD01. If you get a hold of my computer, that's my administrator password for Windows Server and VM Player. I would suggest you do the same, just so you don't forget it. That would be sad. Okay, we're logging in a server now, and then we're going to start our configuration for our server. You'll notice it automatically boots to Server Manager. If it doesn't, there's that little icon at the bottom when you scroll that you can use to launch Server Manager. I'm going to be flipping between page Roman numeral 18 on server 01, and also, no, because that didn't help me. Also in chapter 2, if you need to, if you can't follow, but I think we can. Oh, I'm going to flip between the server configuration and page 53, 4, and 5. I'm setting up and changing your work group and your IP address and testing your network connectivity. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, well, sort of, I'm going to do that. But Chapter 2 tells you how to install the server, and Chapter 1 needs you to use the server, but it doesn't tell you how to install it. So that's why I'm kind of flipping back and forth. So here's our server manager. The first thing that we want to do, okay, is I'm reading through the bullets on my Roman numeral 18. I installed Data Center. I need to change my server name. Now this, if you already have server, this is where you need to pick up. You're going to go to local server. We need to do a couple things in here. See that the RAM and total disk space that's required, the memory and the hard disk, that's already there. So we don't need to mess with that. We're going to change our computer name, which is our server name. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on change. I'm going to change this to 410Server1. Now while I'm in this window, I'm going to also click on More, and I'm going to change my DNS suffix. This is part of the configuration for Server 1. My DNS suffix is going to be 410server2012.local. 410, yeah, this is in like the 10th or 7th or 8th or 9th bullet down. So we're going to change our DNS suffix to 410server2012.local. Okay, that's my computer server name. Okay. Okay, one of the other bullets right above that, excuse me, right above that is work group. We're going to, since we're in this window, we're going to change our work group. We'll add it to domain later. Well, we'll add our next systems to remember the domain. But I'm going to change this to 410. Whoops, not J. 410 server 2012. Okay, now this is going to require a reboot, and I will reboot. I think I'll leave the video running. It shouldn't take too long once it starts responding. Okay, I am added to my work group. Okay, I must restart. Okie dokie. It'll take effect when I restart, so I'm going to close and restart now. Well, I'll restart now, sure. Make sure when you get back in that you're logged in as administrator. I'm not sure that administrator will log in for me automatically, so I'm going to, once it boots back up, I'm going to log out and log in and make sure I log in as an administrator. So right here, oh wait, this will work. Control, delete, escape, administrator. Cool. PASS, capital P, WRD01. Has to be a capital P. And server manager is going to start. Now, two things that we need to do. Or not two, we still have to configure. That's going to be Chapter 4 requires installing a third system. If you're using virtualization, you can add a new virtual disk. Okay, well, we will do that when we get to that. I'm still on Roman numeral 18. What we need to configure IP, our default gateway, our DNS, and set our network location. So, I'm in my server. I'm going to go down to my local servers. This is different than what's in the book in Chapter 2 on configuring your IP. I can't follow those directions. I'm pretty sure there's errors or it's confusing, but we need to configure our IP. So I'm going to go to Ethernet. Again, it references this in Chapter 2. I'm going to click on IP4 address by DHCP, and we want to set up a static IP. So I'm going to right click here, network and network connections, and I am going to go to properties and go down to IP version 4. We're going to IP6 and IP4 are set up, but I'm going to go to IP4 and double click and set my properties. I'm going to set my IP address to 10.10.1.1. The 16 that's listed in the on Roman numeral 18 after that, that's referring to how many bits are left with subnetting. So this goes back to CO235. We learned how to subnet, and we are using 16 bits left over, so this second one has to be 255 as well. So this, again, unfortunately it's not listed in the book, but our subnet mask has to be 255.255.0.0 because we have 16 bits left over, which basically means we're using a fake Class A IP, but we're going to have two things that is two octets, so 16 to the power 16. We're going to have that many octets, or I'm sorry, we're going to have these two octets that we can configure. So it's like 65,000 IPs, but in order to do that, you need to set up subnetting, which is why we changed that to 255. Our default gateway, I could talk about subnetting forever, but I won't. 10.10 Again, we're doing these statically so that we can set up a network, hopefully. 10.10.1.250. Now, unless it says unless applied or assigned by your instructor, we don't have that because we're not using a real network. Okay, we have one preferred DNS server, and it's 10.10.1.200. And these are important to get right here because we want to connect with those later as we cover DNS and DHCP. Okay, so we're going to hit OK and OK. It's identifying. Now at this point it should say not connected to a network, but as we build our network we should be able to identify our network. Okay, I'm going to close my network connections. One of the other configurations it wants us to set up is Windows updates. I honestly don't want to mess with Windows updates, so we're going to leave that as not configured. You know, this is where we turn on automatic updates. We will do this later as we go on with the semester and we learn about the importance of updates for servers. So right now we're going to leave that as not configured. These are our other basic setups. Time zone, if you want to change that. Windows reporting, firewall. Let me just click on here real quick. Our next guest or public network. Okay, I'm connected to guest or public network, not the private network. I am on a private network. Hold on, this confuses me for a minute. Connected to guest or public. Okay. The next thing, it says the network location must be set to private. To change the network location from public to private, you need to go to Tools and Local Security Policy. If you aren't sure, open the Networking Sharing Center and it's configured there. Okay. No modification. I'm going to go check out my control panel for a minute. Network and Sharing Center. Okay, my network is unidentified. No internet access. We will remedy that later. Okay, just checking out some things first. All right, and again, we'll configure all of this, but we're going to go to Tools, Local Security Policy, and then Lists or Network List Manager Policies. Double click, and then double click on All Networks. Here, click User can change location. Bam. Click OK. And click the network that we are connected to. I'm connected to unidentified network. Mine was the unidentified network. It couldn't connect. Remember where it said unidentified network? So I'm going to double click on this, but that has a question mark. Temporary state of networks that are in process of being identified. Networks that cannot be identified due to network. Okay, we will adjust that later. I'm going to click on unidentified and set it as private for location type. In the network location tab, click the private option. then I'm going to hit OK. Should I private? OK. I don't think this is where it was talking about change location. I'm going to hit that as well. OK. And then I am going to close my server manager and reboot. Well, not. That is all of my setup for server 410. If you're using the CD, you can hit on it 5 times. It's explaining that Roman numeral 18. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to server manager. So you're still watching the video because I need you to submit something so I know your server 410 is set up. I want you to go to server manager. I want you to go to your local server. Wait for all of this to load. Here we go. Should look very similar to mine. And do a print screen because you're going to insert this in your homework assignment. So I'm just doing a print screen. You know, if you're using a Windows system, I kind of find this tool pretty useful too, snipping tool. I want to see, well actually what I want to see for you to submit so I know your server, your 410Server1 is set up. I want to see this. So here I'm snipping it from that server, I'm just call it 410Server1 setup or installed. If you don't have snipping tool, if you're using a different system, just do a screenshot and save it. Let me pause my video for a minute, and then I'm going to jump over to Blackboard. Actually, I'm going to shut down my server here. Okay. And then I'll pause. Now, when you log off, you want to right-click on this window and shut down. And this is a planned shutdown. This is important because usually you leave servers up. So I'm going to do a planned. You can write a note if you're shutting down for updates or something. And it's shutting down all the services I have so far. So it's going to shut down, and then it closes my VM station. I'm going to pause for a minute and then jump over to here and show you how to submit the server 410 assignment. Okay, I had to make an assignment real quick. Okay, so in Learning Module 4, there is the 410Server1 assignment in Learning Module 4. And I have to render the video, but you'll see the video here when you're watching it. What I want you to do, I'll change this to click. So you click on here. You need to attach a file. And I saved mine on the desktop as a JPEG. You can save it in any, I use snippets, so it automatically saves it. This assignment is worth 30 points, and what I want to see in this screenshot is the things that I just showed you and that we just configured. Our IP address, our server name is changed. That screenshot that I took of my local server, that's what I want to see in your screenshot, and then you can hit submit, and I will grade that. So I hope we have that installed and working well. Cancel out of here. And we will go on also with this learning module to view some of our properties of our system. So thank you.